Welcome to our online guests. It's good to have you here. And this lecture we're going to be talking about hormones. Hormones is often the missing link. I meet people that say, but I'm doing everything right, I'm exercising, I'm going to bed early, I'm drinking all my water, and when they tell me their symptoms, it's hormones. So let me list some of the symptoms. For a female, it can be early periods. Did you know that normal is 16 to 18? But you hardly ever hear of that today. We're getting girls that are getting their periods at 8, 9 years of age. They've almost lost part of their childhood. And if they get their periods at 8, what are they thinking of at 13? Something they shouldn't be thinking of till their marrying age. Also, symptoms of a hormonal imbalance can be very heavy periods, very painful periods, painful breasts at period time, premenstrual tension, endometriosis, fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries, polyps in the uterus, cervical cancer, uterine cancer, breast cancer, depression, thyroid problems, heart disease. These can be some of the symptoms of someone having a hormonal imbalance, a female. What about a male? Are males affected? Absolutely. Males have hormones too. So what would be some of the symptoms of a male having a hormonal imbalance? Low sperm count. How many couples can't have children today? Penile dysfunction, inability to hold an erection. Current figures in Australia are 50% of men over the age of 40 are struggling with this one. And there is a reason. Never forget our why. And if I don't give you enough whys, please ask. Also with men, it can be prostate problems. We didn't even know what that word meant 40 years ago. Too much of the male hormone can cause a woman to be masculine. Too much of the female hormone can cause a man to be feminine. These are some of the symptoms of the hormonal imbalance. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take you through the hormones, how they're made, the monthly cycle. Then we're going to have a look at what throws the hormones out of balance. And we're going to finish with how you can bring them back into balance. And that's the good news. Notice what our sex hormones are made from. Cholesterol. If the cholesterol levels go under 150, that person's going to have hormone problems because they haven't got the cholesterol that the body uses to make the sex hormones. And by the way, vitamin D is made from cholesterol too. Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, he's the cardiovascular surgeon that wrote the book, The Great Cholesterol Con. He said, for the first time, normal levels of a normal vital body substance is being called a disease, cholesterol. From cholesterol, our body makes pregnenolone, and from pregnenolone, our body makes progesterone. Progesterone's a key hormone. In fact, progesterone can be looked at as mother. This is mother hormone. Because from progesterone, estrogen is made. From progesterone, mother, testosterone is made. Adrenal hormones are made. So you could say mother has sons, this is testosterone, and daughters, which is estrogens. And mother hormone has actually 3 estrogens, estrone, estradiol, and estriol. And we'll see how they play out in a minute. So I'm going to show you what happens in the monthly cycle. And I'm going to explain the monthly cycle like a dance, and it is like a dance. Different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. And so in this monthly dance, can you pull that for me? Thank you. Progesterone mother hormone is going to be wearing a green outfit. And one of progesterone's nicknames is happy hormone. And there's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Is that right? Not a lot of ladies like that saying, but the fact is the mother is the one mostly in the home, and if she's happy, everybody's happy. One man said to his wife, when you're happy, I'm happy. A lot of ladies are struggling because they're lacking progesterone. So the other hormone in this monthly cycle, thank you, is estrogen. And as there is one mother, there are actually 3 estrogens. And estrogen's role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. And cell proliferator basically means causes massive cell growth. And it's estrogen that causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if estrogen levels remain high, that beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape. I liken estrogen to fire and water. Good slave, bad master. And when I flew home to Australia on the 25th of December, cheapest day to fly, 2019, and drove onto our property, the whole property was black. You probably heard about the fires in 2019. Our creek bed was dry. Never seen that. And yet right in the middle of winter, oh, how I love my little fire, my little combustion fire in my house. So estrogen's the same, as have carbohydrates. They're not bad, it's only when they're overdone. Same with estrogen. It's not bad, it is an important hormone in the female body, but if it's in high amounts, then the problem can arise. Estrone and estradiol both have strong cell proliferator action, whereas estriol is called the delicate estrogen. Maybe she's the younger sister. She's a delicate estrogen. In day 1 of the monthly cycle, which is the day that a woman begins to menstruate, progesterone levels are low. So mother hormone is low, backstage so to speak. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are low, but by day 7 they're starting to rise, and by day 14 estrogen is the star player in the monthly dance of the hormones. Let's go to the stage where the dance is played out, which is the reproductive organs of a woman's body. This is the uterus, they're the fallopian tubes, they're the ovaries, that's the cervix, this is the birth canal. So at this time of the month, estrogen is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus. Because remember, on week 1, the blood nest came away. That's when a woman is menstruating. So as we go into day 2, with this rise in estrogen, the blood nest once again develops. Estrogen causes a ripening of eggs that are in the ovaries. Estrogen also causes a form of lubricant to be released in the birth canal. By day 14, maybe in some women it might be 15, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries, and the filaments on the end of the fallopian tube pick up the egg, and the fallopian tubes are ever moving like this, causing the egg to move up, up, up in its journey through the fallopian tubes. The hole where the egg bursts forth creates a blister, and that blister is called corpus luteum. I have written corpus luteum in green because corpus luteum is the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. In a man, it would be in his testes, but in a woman, it's in the ovaries. And so by day 14, we've got a rise in progesterone levels with the creation of corpus luteum. Because we don't need estrogen any longer, we've got the blood nest, the egg, the lubricant, estrogen can now go backstage. So what effect does it have here, this rise in progesterone? Rise in progesterone heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month to the point of increasing her sexual desire at this time of the month. Progesterone also has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus. Let me magnify the cervix for you and show you what's happening there. The cervix is like a little cushion, a little soft cushion, and it has a hole in the middle where there's a little mucus plug. So let's have a look at this from sideways. So from sideways, you've got the sides of the cushion here and the mucus plug. With the rise in progesterone at this time of the month, the mucus plug releases and the sides of the cushion come up a little bit tighter, but something else happens. And that is a special form of lubricant is released around the cervix, and that's designed to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So you can see that the stage is set for the entry of man. Between 200 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation. It's the smallest cell in the human body. If the sperm meet this cervix, not easy to gain entry, but they're so small that some do get through. But if the sperm meet this cervix, that lubricant literally grabs it and shoots it up into the uterus. It's got a long journey. Those sperm have got a long way to go. And some of them go down the wrong road and they basically die and get absorbed away. But some of them go down the right fallopian tube and aha, they've found their prize. I saw a photograph at a seminar one day with 16 sperm all trying to gain entry, and the covering of the egg basically has folds in it, and the sperm has to nudge its way into one of those folds. It's not easy entry. As soon as the sperm enters, all the other folds shut tight and a chemical is released to kill any other sperm that might try and get in. Isn't it a miracle any of us are here when you realise everything that has to be in place for the conception of a new human being? So what happens when conception takes place? Then progesterone soars 200%. Don't we often say when a lady's pregnant, she's just blossoming? If she's not, what would that indicate? That she's lacking progesterone, and we'll look at why that would be so. The delicate estrogen, the younger sister, is the estrogen that rises in pregnancy. But what happens if there is no conception? Then by day 26, estrogen levels drop right down, and by day 26, progesterone levels drop right down. And when both of those levels drop right down, the blood supply to the uterus is cut, and when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, then the blood nest comes away, and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's what the cycle should look like. Unfortunately, with many today, the cycle does not look like that. And there is a reason. Why is this so? So we're going to have a look at some of the reasons why the monthly cycle does not look like that. But before we do, I want to comment for 1 minute on sperm. Sperm is an alien to a woman's body. And when sperm enters woman's body, her immune system rises to attack. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system, so sperm survives. Another reason why we're here. But can you imagine how dangerous it can be in a woman that has multiple partners? Then that different sperm entering her has quite a devastating effect on her immune system. And also imagine how damaging this can be in the area of anal sex. So why the disruption? Number 1, 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. 1960s is called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without falling pregnant. So what is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. In a laboratory, the plant chemical called diosgenin, which is the plant chemical that is in the wild yam, in a laboratory this diosgenin can be converted to progesterone. Now, the pharmaceutical companies cannot patent progesterone, and that's why they don't like sodium bicarbonate. You can't patent sodium bicarbonate. The only thing that can be patented is things they create or new things. So they add a few more atoms and come up with a synthetic estrogen. And that's what used to be in the pill. But it was causing so many problems because, as you can imagine, when estrogen gets too high with its cell proliferator action, it's causing a lot of problems. And so I think it was late 80s, early 90s, they recognised the problems of this rise in estrogen. And so since then, the pill also contains a synthetic progesterone. Has that fixed the problem? No, it hasn't fixed the problem, because that synthetic progesterone can block the progesterone receptor site, so our body can't take up the natural progesterone. So I'd like to show you, I'd like to give you an illustration of what's happening month after month, year after year, when a lady is on the pill. So month after month on the pill, and by the way, how does it work? Well, those synthetic hormones go into the biochemical pathway that your body uses to make hormones, and it causes a disruption. So the body thinks, what's going on? Must be pregnant. And because it thinks it's pregnant, it doesn't release the egg. And because the egg's not released, the lady doesn't fall pregnant. But let me show you the effect of this on the body. So we've got our red, which is estrogen, and our green is progesterone. And as you can see by this pathway, number one hormone should be mother. Mother should be the boss of the home, yeah? Number one hormone should be progesterone. The problem is, week after week on the pill, month after month, year after year, no release of egg. That means no corpus luteum. So where's progesterone going? Down. Month after month on the pill with synthetic estrogen, where's estrogen going? Estrogen's rising. And we've got a problem today, sadly too common. It's called progesterone deficiency and estrogen dominance. Good slave, bad master is now the master. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, causing too much endometrium, which starts to wander. There's your endometriosis. Starts to wander all through the abdominal walls, and then every month when the blood nest comes away, these little pockets bleed, but they have nowhere to go, and it causes excruciating pain. And so the doctor will come in with a diathermy needle and burn out those little pockets. Has that fixed everything? It hasn't, because now there's going to be scar tissue there. And because the hormone balance hasn't been fixed, more comes. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, and the estrogen, the synthetic estrogens, are very similar to the estrone, estradiol, with its strong cell proliferator action, causing fibroids to grow in the uterus, causing cysts to grow on the ovaries. There's your polycystic ovarian syndrome, causing polyps to develop, causing cancers to develop, causing cysts to develop in the breasts, causing breast cancer. And this high estrogen opposes thyroid function. So here's the ladies that are developing thyroid problems. No wonder Elaine Hollingsworth, I think she's passed now, but she was a health writer in Australia. She called the pill the mass murder of millions of women. And if a woman's on the pill for 7 years before she has her baby, when she has her baby, if it's a man child or woman child, they are both born with a hormonal imbalance. These are the young men in their 30s today with penile dysfunction, with low sperm count. These are the young women with endometriosis, fibroids in the uterus. These are the young women and the young men who can't fall pregnant. These are the young women who are developing breast cancer. My son James, at the age of 35, 2 of his friends, their wives died from breast cancer. They're 35. So the lady's on the pill, and then she goes through menopause. She's maybe on the pill in her teens, 20s, and then 20, 30 years later she goes through menopause. What's happening? Hot flushes. That's high estrogen. Estrogen is a cell proliferator, and it's also a capillary dilator. So it causes the blood to rush to the skin, and the husband knows because all the blankets get thrown off in the middle of the night and they get pulled back on again. One lady said to me, I'm the CEO of a company. She said, I'm in a meeting, I'm chairing an important meeting, and I get this hot flush. She said, the perspiration drips. She said, I just can't function. So she goes to the doctor, and he put her on hormone replacement therapy. Has that fixed everything? What's that? More synthetic hormones. Body thinks must be pregnant, so it stops flushing. It now puts its energies into breast and uterus. She's happy because she's not getting the hot flushes anymore. 6 years later, she notices a lump in her breast. She goes to the doctor. He does a test, finds out she's got breast cancer. He stops the hormone replacement therapy immediately. Why? He knows. He knows that it can cause breast cancer. And you say to the physician, why do you do that? Why do you put the woman on HRT? And he said she was suffering and it brought her relief. That's true. But if you ask the lady, what would you prefer, breast cancer or hot flushes? What's her answer? Bring on the hot flushes. I'll get a black lace fan. I've seen a few black lace fans. But what you learn today is there's a way to work with the body to bring the hormones back into balance and so reduce those hot flushes. So hormone replacement therapy is not the answer. Was it the year 2000 when Time magazine blew the whistle and did an article on HRT? Whoa. They had a 16-year study. They had to stop at 8 years because too many women were dying on the HRT study. You can't actually play with the delicate balance in the body and not have an effect. Isn't that Newton's third law of motion? To every action there's an equal and an opposite reaction. But there are some people who have obvious hormone imbalances and they've never been on the pill or HRT. There's more. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? Growth stimulants. It's against the law to give growth stimulants to chicken and to cattle farmers now. So you know what they've done with the chicken industry? They genetically modified the chickens to produce more estrogen. So if you're eating the chicken or the egg, what are you getting? You're getting those synthetic estrogens. We had a guy do our program and he said, I got 2 mates, because you know in Australia a friend is called a mate. I got 2 mates and their parents own a chicken farm. And he said, one's 6'6", one's 6'8". And there's a 5'10" father and a 5'2" mother. Where'd this height come from? Well, if the father owns a chicken farm, what are they eating every meal? The chickens and the eggs, yeah. So meat, whether it be red or white, there's no difference. Fish, what about fish? Well, when you got 20%, maybe in some countries 50%, in some countries 80% of women on the pill or HRT, and they go to the toilet, the sewage goes out to sea, the fish are feeding on the sewage. And also some fish farms, they're giving growth stimulants. We're going to show you how to make lentils taste fantastic. But if a person wants to eat meat today, they have to be very careful what they're eating. If it's in the meat, it's in the product. I've met some people who've been vegetarians all their life, never been on the pill, yet they have a hormonal imbalance. There's more. Plastics. When I was a little girl, everything we wore was cotton. And the milkman would come to the door and the bottles were in glass. And the cereal was in greaseproof paper. And when I went to school, my sandwiches were wrapped in greaseproof paper with a brown paper bag. But today, everything's plastic, isn't it? It's just plastic everywhere. And in plastic, what makes it soft is something called nonylphenol. I've got a brother who's 2.5 years older than me. So when I was 16, he was 18, he bought his first car. It was a Zephyr. And this is in the 60s. And the dashboard had a big crack in it. You know, the vinyl in the dashboard. So he put turquoise fur on it and then a cow that their head went up and down. That's very 60s, isn't it? But have you noticed the dashboards don't crack anymore? It's because they've got nonylphenol in them. And also many plastics have bisphenol A in them. And that's what makes plastic soft. You can get plastic that's BPA free. I think, is that a plastic bottle or glass bottle there? Is that glass? Plastic. Yeah, so it's hard. And I wouldn't be surprised if you look at the bottom, it'll say BPA free. So the hard plastic is a safe plastic. So BPA free is bisphenol A. In the molecular structure of estrogen, there's a phenyl ring. And that phenyl ring unlocks the door to get the estrogen into the cell. So these plastics that have got that phenyl ring, they have an estrogenic effect on the body. They get into the estrogen receptor. And so they're called xenoestrogens. You've probably heard of it. Xenoestrogens are estrogen mimickers. They mimic estrogen in the body. And you'll find that in many plastics. The exception, again, is the hard plastic that's BPA free. But also, we touched on this yesterday, is the chemical fabrics. We've got a shop in Australia. It's just for women's exercise equipment, you know, clothes. You can't find anything in there that doesn't have polyester, nylon or acrylic. And bras. They lost my bags in Heathrow Airport last year, or actually the year before last, for 5 weeks. So I had to go and buy some clothes. And I went into a shop to buy some underwear, and in the bras, I would say out of, I don't know, 80 different brands, one was made out of cotton. But in America, you got Fruit of the Loom. Is it Fruit of the Loom? They have a lot of cotton things. So you've just got to take your magnifying glass, because you need one to read the labels, and make sure you get cotton fabrics, especially next to the skin. Also chemicals. So basically they're chemical fabrics. And in America, you've got Trader Joe's, you've got Sprouts, you've got Whole Foods, you've got a whole lot of shops, and you can quite easily get biodegradable cleaning products, laundry detergents. The good news is, if they say to use, say, 2 teaspoons in a load of washing, you could use half a teaspoon. Because washing machines are so effective today that you don't need very much. So be careful what you're eating. And one of the worst chemicals is glyphosate or Roundup. In 2015, Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan government banned Roundup because so many farmers were getting endocrine cancers. These are hormonal cancers. So I mentioned this in my new book, and the graphic designer, he checks out everything I say and gives quotes where you can find it. And he said, you wouldn't believe it, he was checking this out, they've just legalised it again. Does that mean Roundup's safe now? No, what would cause them to legalise it again? But money, yeah, probably money. Do you know the greatest want or need of the world today is people who will not be bought or sold, isn't that true? That's why my husband's such a successful politician. You cannot buy or sell him. He's just straight. Okay, chemicals. So be careful on the food that you're eating. Be very careful on the children. We think we've got hormone problems today. You wait for the next 10 years. When I was a mother, I just had cloth nappies. You call them diapers. But today there's hardly anyone that uses cloth nappies. Some people are going back to it, and they make it a lot easier now. It's just like little pants with a pad in it. But you can get biodegradable diapers, disposable diapers, made out of starch, made out of cornstarch. They're, of course, a lot safer. So can you see we're bombarded from every side? Every side. And a question is often asked, what about soy? What about the estrogens in soy? Well, let me show you. Here's the cell. We've got 3 cells here, and we've got 3 estrogen receptor sites on 3 cells. So xenoestrogen. Xenoestrogen is the chemical estrogens, the estrogen mimickers. These chemical estrogens are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogen. So how big's the human estrogen? Human estrogen just sits perfectly inside the receptor site. But human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So how big's the plant estrogen? It's a tiny little one that just slips in like this. So which is the one we need to fear? Is it the plant? Certainly not the plant. It's the chemicals. But the plant is interesting. In Psalm 104, verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. I love that wording, service. Do you know what that means? The plant comes in and it says, where would you like me? What would you like me to do? So this plant estrogen coming from the soy, it knocks on the door. It says, excuse me, do you need me? And the cell says, no, we've got enough. So you know what it does? It sits at the door. And what that means is, when this guy comes along, it can't get in. So the soy or the plant estrogens actually play a protective role. If you need them, they'll take them. If you don't, they'll just sit there. Now, there is a drug called tamoxifen, and this drug is given to women for 5 years after they've had breast cancer, and it blocks the estrogen receptor sites. Now, there's an acknowledgement that estrogen is a big contributing factor in breast cancer. But tamoxifen has its own problems. As a drug, it also has side effects. Well, the good news is there's an alternative to tamoxifen. It's red clover. And red clover, like soy, has the natural estrogens, and it can come along and sit in there like that. And that's what I love about the herbs. They work with the needs of your body. Whereas drugs come in and say, get out of my way, I've got a job to do whether you need it or not. Big difference. And you remember on the first day I showed you the 2 systems, one based on fear, one based on faith. Faith in the body that's created to heal itself, and God also created herbs that work with the systems of the body, bringing about healing. The problem today with soy is most soybean grown in America is called Roundup Ready. Why is it called Roundup Ready? It's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. Thanks, I put it on too tight. Here's the soybean, Roundup Ready, been genetically modified, problem number 1. One farmer said to me, he said, you should see it, they spray the field with Roundup, all the weeds die and the soybean keeps growing. And so that soybean has 5 doses of Roundup. So that soybean will increase breast cancer. That soybean will increase prostate cancer, not because the natural estrogen's in it, but because of the chemicals on it. Because though that Roundup is those xenoestrogens. So now the $1 million question is, how do we turn it around? By the way, before I go there, these xenoestrogens, they have the strong cell proliferator action that is seen in the estrone and the estradiol. So how do we turn it around? Number 1, eliminate. If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. Stop the pill. Stop HRT. So how do we stop having babies popping up all the time? Well, sex is two-part, contraception should be two-part. And a woman's body will tell her, it'll give her 3 signs. One sign is her temperature will change. It's as simple as a woman taking her temperature before she gets out of bed every day, and she will find that her temperature will do this. Then just as she comes to ovulation, about 13 or day 14, her temperature will drop, then it'll go up onto a higher plane. And that is the sign that she has begun ovulation, the temperature change. The second sign is that the cervix changes. So when ovulation begins, when progesterone is high, then the sides of the cervix come up a little tighter and the mucus plug goes. Now at first a woman has got nothing to compare it with, but she tests it every day, and as the weeks and the months go by, she starts to see those changes. The third sign is that the vaginal mucus changes. So when estrogen's high, it's not as profuse, it's white, thick. And then when progesterone rises, it becomes more profuse, clear and stringy. So what the lady does is she tests it every day and she charts it on a chart. In my new book, Sustain Me, there's going to be a place where you can download a chart. So you can make your own chart. The man's role is, and by the way, the lady will find most of the time that she will ovulate in this week here. So she says to her husband, I'm safe, I'm not safe, I'm safe. So when she is not safe, then the husband either masters the art of withdrawal or uses a condom. And that's in that week where she is not safe. My daughter Jessica, she said, Mum, I've got an app on my phone and I put my temperature in every day and I look at my app and it says safe today, not safe today. So I guess you can even add it to your device that'll tell you. So eliminate the pill and HRT. Implementing what I list here will enable a lady to get off the HRT and also reduce her menopausal symptoms. Eliminate the meat in its product. If you want to eat meat in its product, must be organic. When I was in Ireland, I had some people attending my meeting saying, Barbara, what about organic raw milk? We have an organic dairy. I say, great. There's certainly a big difference between that and what you're buying in the butcher shop and the supermarket. But I said, I'm a 5th generation Australian, Scottish descent, and obviously dairy's not in my heritage. I can't handle it, so even the raw organic doesn't sit well with me. But if a person wants to eat meat and its products, then that really has to be the choice. Get the plastics out of the home. I think that's impossible to totally eliminate it, but just as much as possible. You can start with your clothes, start with what your body's exposed to, start with what your drinking bottle is, what you're storing your food in. One of the worst is hot food into a plastic takeaway container. And I think most people know that those drink bottles, when they're in the car on a hot day, and you drink that bottle, you're getting a blast of these xenoestrogens. So just being mindful of all of those little bits and pieces. If a friend has a baby, this is a great present for them. Buy them some biodegradable diapers. Buy them a little stainless steel bottle with a rubber teat. Buy them a little wooden rattle. Buy them a little rubber, you call them a pacifier dummy. And when they open the present, and everyone's given them, you know, all sorts of fancy stuff, and they look at your present and you look at them and you say, I'm concerned about your baby's sexuality. And shouldn't we be? Because that's a long way away. But what's happening in those early years is affecting little by little the hormones. A lady said to me, my little girl, her girlfriend just gave her this pretty nightie, and it's all polyester. And when the mother saw it, said, "You can't wear that, it's polyester." Okay, what's the daughter going to do? Is she going to say, "Okay, Mum, no, this is a pretty..." She said, "Well, what do I do?" I said, "You go to Joann's, is that where you buy your materials, and you let her pick a pretty cotton or viscose material, and then you go to the patterns and you choose a pretty pattern, or you go to Grandma who maybe she can sew." But you got to work with the children, and that's what I'd say. "Oh, it's beautiful." You always acknowledge and say, "But problem is, but let's go." And then you might say to her, "Would you like me to make another one for you to give to your girlfriend?" So you've got to work with the kids. Got to make friends. Well, when I say you've got to make friends with them, I think parents should always be the parents, but you've got to work with them. So eliminate anything that could interfere with the balancing of the hormones. Number 2, our liver has the ability to detoxify us from environmental poisons and excess estrogen. So here's the liver, and the liver takes the excess estrogen down one of 2 pathways. There's the hydroxy-2 pathway and there's the hydroxy-16 pathway. If it goes down the hydroxy-2 pathway, it's out. That's what we want. But if it comes down the hydroxy-16 pathway, it can come in 100 times worse. So I'll call it highway 2 and highway 16. And there are some foods and herbs that will stimulate highway 2 and inhibit highway 16. One is the cabbage family. It can be as simple as eating something from the cabbage family every day. Sauerkraut's a great additive to the daily diet. Any of the cabbages, also broccoli, bok choy, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all of those. They contain something called indoles. And indoles are the plant chemical that stimulates highway 2 and inhibits highway 16. Also vitamin B6, B9 and B12. These 3 B vitamins stimulate highway 2. Licorice, if you've got high blood pressure, forget the licorice. And also, because it can boost it up, flaxseed, ground flax. We'll be serving ground flaxseed every breakfast. Hippocrates said, "Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food." And you didn't know what I've just told you there. So point number 1 is turning the tap off. Point number 2 is getting rid of the excess estrogens. Point number 3 is applying a Yam Cream. I know America has several different brands of Yam Creams. Living Springs sells a few different types. It's a matter of reading your labels and making sure that everything is kosher, but you'll find they all are based on the wild yam. Another great additive, which is in most of the Yam Creams, is Vitex or Chase Tree. But the Yam Cream contains the diosgenin, and when it's applied to the skin, the fat cells take this up and it stimulates this pathway that your body uses to make the mother hormone. And when you boost mother hormone progesterone automatically brings all the others under control, whether you are male or female. Because with men, the number 1 hormone is progesterone because it's mother hormone. Same with a woman. If testosterone levels are too low, it'll bring it up. If they're too high, it'll bring it down. Same with progesterone. If they're too low, it'll bring it up. Too high, it'll bring it down. So boosting progesterone basically means you're working with the body to bring about balance. And it's all about balance. It's not so much of putting a hormone into you, it's actually getting the correct balance. When I was in the Bronx a few years ago teaching, I met a young girl. She was 9, she had her periods at 8. So I suggested that she start the Yam Cream. How long would you be on the Yam Cream for? One jar usually lasts 3 months. And some of the Yam Creams you can, it's just a squeeze of the top. Some of them you put your finger in, it'd be up to about the nail bed. And then one time you put it on the inside of your arm, another time inside of thigh, another time abdomen, another time chest. So you alternate the sites of application. And the Yam Cream is applied for 3 weeks a month. So the 3 weeks, where's my thing? So these 3 weeks here, if you're still menstruating, these are the 3 weeks that you apply. So basically you stop when you're menstruating. If you're not menstruating anymore, you just choose 1 week of the month where you do not apply. And for some ladies, they find eliminating the first week of the month or eliminating the last week of the month just makes it easy to remember. Little by little, it brings the balance. So usually it takes a year to get that balance back. So people with thyroid problems apply the cream and get that progesterone up to get that estrogen down. Depression, we've seen a few people conquer their depression by going on the Yam Cream, gets progesterone up, and remember what progesterone is? Happy hormone. So all the symptoms that I began with in my first lecture can all be resolved by balancing the hormones through the natural Yam Creams. I find every country I go to has a Yam Cream. Again, it's just reading your labels and making sure that the base that it's in, of course, is a natural base. So let's look at the menopausal woman. The menopausal woman is overweight, and this can be a factor with high estrogen. Being a cell proliferator, it's almost impossible to lose weight if you've got high estrogen. So it helps with weight loss. She's depressed because she's lacking progesterone. She has no desire for sex. And when she has sex, it's painful. She's lost the lubricant. The cells lining the vagina are tender. She's of all women most miserable. If she goes on the Yam Cream, that will certainly boost her libido. It'll help her with weight loss, with desire, all of that. But what about the lubricant? It can take a while for that to be replaced. So something else is becoming popular, and it's called the Yoni stones. And the Yoni stones were developed in the Chinese dynasty to help the empress, the concubines, become sexually toned for the emperor. And they're becoming popular now, and I'll show you why. So first of all, let me draw the stones. So they look like an egg, and they're usually made out of nephrite jade, which is like a green marble. And they have 2 little holes at the bottom, which allows dental floss to be put in for extraction. And so what the lady does is she inserts the largest stone first until it touches the cervix. She won't even know it is there. But what happens is, it's a marble stone, so her pelvic girdle, the muscles from the inside, work to hold that stone there. And as the muscles work, what happens when you work muscles? They get strong. They get strong. And when those muscles work, they call for a blood supply to bring the oxygen, to bring the nutrients, to feed them so they can work. So what happens, that in the increase of blood supply, it starts to revive the glands, and so the glands start to make more lubricant. And because of the increase in blood supply, the cells that line the vagina are getting nourished, and so sex is no longer painful. It might take a couple of months of wearing the stone. So how is the stone worn? It's worn for 1 hour a day, week 1. 2 hours a day, week 2, 3 hours a day, week 3, 4 hours a day, week 4, 5 hours a day, week 5. When a lady's up to wearing it for 5 hours a day, she can wear that for 6 months and then go to the middle-sized stone, because now her pelvic girdle is strong enough to be able to hold it. After 6 months, wearing it half a day, she can start to go to the small one. And her pelvic girdle now will be strong. Now, not only is it helping women to once again enjoy being intimate with their husband in their 60s, but what also is happening is the strengthening of the pelvic wall or the pelvic girdle. Prolapses are healing. You see, prolapse is basically where gravity's pulling us down, and to stop being pulled down, that muscle work. We had two ladies in their 50s, both had to have total hysterectomies because of prolapses, and when they heard this, they said, if only we'd known. My daughter, she had twins. They're 19 now, but they were both about 6 pounds, so she's only a bit bigger than me, so you can imagine how big she was. She said ever after, whenever she'd cough or laugh or jump on the trampoline, she'd lose a little urine. And she thought, I've just got to put up with this, all that weight from those babies. And she heard about the Yoni stones. She started to wear them. And within 2 months, she could cough, she could laugh, and she would not lose any urine. So the strengthening of the pelvic girdle affects also incontinence in the urethra. It affects prolapse in the urethra, prolapse in the vagina area, because it just strengthens the holding of the stone, strengthens the pelvic girdle. So you can see why it's helping a lot of women today. And so ends my presentation on the hormones. You can see why it's such an important one today. But in my last minute before I stop, just one more thing. What about men? Because men are not cyclic, men don't stop. They just use the Yam Cream every day. Why would a man use it? He would use it for prostate problems. He would also use it for penile dysfunction. He would use it for low sperm count. He would use it for maybe too much of the female hormone. You see, with a man with prostate problems, when estradiol levels go too high, it can cause a drop in testosterone and a drop in progesterone. And so boosting progesterone means testosterone is balanced and the estrogen is born back under control. Because when testosterone goes too high, then dihydrotestosterone is produced or converted, and that causes inflammation of the prostate gland. And so that's where these Yam creams can help with male problems as well. Thank you for your attention this morning.
Thank you.